Good morning, students. It's good to get back to you through the online teaching module. Today let's see the poem from the first unit, The Castle by Edwin Muir. I'll read the poem in the first hand. You can read it along with me and then we'll go for the summary. The castle. All through that summer at ease we lay, and daily from the turret wall we watched the mowers in the hay. And the enemy half a mile away, they seemed no threat to us at all. For what we thought we had to fear, with our arms and provender, load on load, or towering battlements, tire on tire, or friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. Our gates were strong, our walls were thick, so smooth and high no man could win a foothold there. No clever trick could take us dead or quick, only a bird could have got in. What could they offer us for a bait? Our captain was brave and we were true. There was a little private gate, a little wicked gate. The wizened warder led them through. Oh then, a maze of tunneled stone grew thin and treacherous as air. The cause was lost without a groan, the famous citadel overthrown, and all its secret galleries bare. How can this shameful tale be told? I will maintain till my death we could do nothing, being sold. Our only enemy was gold, and we had no arms to fight with it. And here are a few points about the poet Edwin Muir. He was a novelist and a translator and one of the most important poets of 1900s. He is remembered for his vivid poetry. He began writing poetry at a relatively older age, and he also worked out on individual and philosophical style for himself, and for this he was recognized very much later in his life. His collection of poems include the Variations on a Time Theme, The Narrow Place, The Voyage and Other Poems, The Labyrinth, and One Foot in Eden. So all these poems are his collections, and The Castle is one of his most important and famous poems that he has ever written. So children, with this we'll get into the poem. Please make sure that you have a pen and a note with you so that you can make notes whenever you need it, because I'll be telling you so many details that I have not mentioned in this PowerPoint. The Castle by Edwin Muir details a post-event of a castle's overthrowing through the account of a soldier who witnessed the castle's fall firsthand. It tells the story of an unspecified battle. The speaker is one of the several men inside the castle. They have plenty of weapons and food, and their supportive countries were nearby. The castle's gates were so strong and the walls are so high, thick and smooth. Yet these men are defeated. The irony is that they only focused on the strength of their physical surroundings and what was beyond the castle. But betrayal from within caused the castle's fall. The enemies bribe one of their own god who lets the enemy soldiers in, and these people bring about the destruction of the castle. The point that human greed can lead to a mighty fall of a citadel. Citadel is a very big fort. And also betrayal is the secret and subtle way that an army is only strong, but if its men cannot be bribed, and any castle which is so strong can be put to destruction. This is what is given in this poem. The theme of this poem is loss and betrayal, and this poem has 6 stanzas, and each stanza has a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B. And with this we'll get into the poem. I'll read the poetic lines and then we'll go for the meaning of it. All through that summer at ease we lay, and daily from the turret wall we watched the mowers in the hay, and the enemy half a mile away, they seemed no threat to us at all. So throughout the summer the gods were stress-free, They had no fear of any threats from their enemies. They just watched the people trimming grass and leveling the lawns in the hay. So, the turret wall, what does this mean? So, turret wall is a defensive wall from where the soldiers keep watching for any threat from their enemies. So, the first line, all through that summer at ease we lay. So, this line is deliberately given to show that the soldiers are very much stress-free, they are unworried about their enemies. And the enemy half a mile away, they seemed no threat to us at all. So the enemies are so far from the castle and they never posed any threat to the soldiers. So here, what is this mower? So mowers are the people who trim the grass and level the lawns. So children, if you have any other doubts, if you have any other confusions and clarifications to make in this stanza, you can post it in the comment section so that I'll make sure that you get all your doubts clarified. With the first stanza, the soldiers were shown to be so confident and were at ease. The second stanza elaborates on what the soldiers were thinking to themselves. So we'll go with the poetic lines. For what we thought we had to fear with our arms and provender load on load, or towering battlements tire on tire, or friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. So one of these soldier thinks to himself, why should we fear? Because we have so many weapons and food in our own castle, so we needn't worry about anything. So they also have plenty of tall towers and openings to shoot their enemies if at all they come near their castle. So that is shown in the third line, or towering battlements. So they have so tall towers in their castle so that they could see any approaching enemy and kill them or shoot them. The next two lines, of friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. So this shows that their allies or the supporting countries are very near them. So they are about to come to the castle, or they are on their way to the castle to support and to assist the soldiers inside the castle. So with all these lines, we come to know that all these soldiers are very much at ease. So what all these lines, the first 10 lines or the first two stanzas implies is that the threats the soldiers noticed were so insignificant that they were so much confident about the physical structures, about the fort, about the citadel, about the whole physical structure around their castle could protect them. The third stanza continues in the description of why the soldiers did not need to worry about the threats about them. So the poetic lines goes like this. Our gates were strong, our walls were thick, so smooth and high, no man could win a foothold there. No clever trick could take us dead or quick, only a bird could have got in. So the gates, for instance, were strong, the walls were so thick, so assuming that no man could win against the castle. In fact, only if something could fly so high like a bird, only a bird can get inside the castle. With this mind frame, the height of the castle is used by the soldiers to show a level of presumed dominance over their enemy. So it is to show that we are so high, we have so many strong fort around us so that you cannot enter. So this is a sort of dominance shown by the soldier to the enemies. So even if men try to get inside the castle with some clever tricks, he could never take any soldier dead or alive, because the soldiers are so much with watchful eyes that any possible intruder into the castle will be shot dead or killed by the next moment they get inside the castle. So the confidence of the soldiers was so high that they never thought their enemies could get inside the castle and attack them, or they never thought the enemies could distract their castle. The fourth stanza presses onward to reinforce the confidence that the soldiers have to proclaim that nobody could get them out of the castle in which they were safe. So the poetic lines go like this: what could they offer us for a bait? Our captain was brave and we were true. There was a little private gate, a little wicket gate. The wizened warder led them through. So what is the meaning of bait? So bait is something intended to entice or lure someone to do something. So from this point of view, the soldiers were very much confident that nothing could get them out of the safe castle so that they will be endangered. So they also say that their captain was so brave and all the soldiers were so loyal to the king. But there was a very small gate, a wicket gate. So what is a wicket gate? A wicket gate is a small door or a way or a passage. So here this wicket gate is guarded by a wicked god. So a evil or morally not right. So the meaning of wicked is morally not right or evil. So it is this wicket gate or the small gate is guarded by a evil god. He led the enemies into the castle by betraying the soldiers. He became a victim of bribery given by the enemies, and that is how the enemies got into the castle. Into the fifth stanza. So here, O then, a maze of tunneled stone, grew thin and treacherous as air. The cause was lost without a groan, the famous citadel overthrown, and all its secret galleries bare. So under the previous stanza, no soldiers would be attracted with a bribe for the entry inside the castle. So that was a strong confidence of the soldiers. But there was an evil soldier or a god who was fascinated by the bribery of the enemies and led them inside the castle through a private gate. So for all these days, the citadel was known for its secret galleries or the rooms and its intricating or complicated path. This strong castle became weak and thin because of this greedy, disloyal soldier. So what is the meaning of the word treacherous? So treacherous is disloyal, being disloyal. So with this, the castle that was once a strong fortress became a maze of tunneled stone, as if the soldiers themselves had trouble navigating their way through the halls and corridors, and those walls which they thought strengthened their confidence had turned thin and treacherous. So even the air around the soldiers or among the soldiers is so thin and treacherous. They could not even believe the one who is standing next to them. They could not find their way inside their own castle, or they could not find a way to escape outside their castle because of all the confusions and chaos caused by the entry of the enemies. So the famous citadel is overthrown. What is a citadel? Citadel is a strong fortress. So the famous citadel, the once famous citadel, was now captured by the enemies for gold. So gold is something that implies the bribery that is given by the enemies to capture or to get inside the castle. So all its secret galleries, all the secret galleries or all the secrets that is kept within the castle are now bare and open for the enemies to distract. With the famous citadel overthrown, now the narrator says all these few lines. How can this shameful tale be told? I will maintain till my death we could do nothing being sold. Our only enemy was gold, and we had no arms to fight with it. The narrator here laments over the disloyalty of the god or the soldier, and he was ashamed to tell anyone about this act of the soldier or the wicked soldier. So he decides to keep the secret to himself until his death. And at the same time, we should also note that the soldier, the narrating soldier, is not willing to note a flaw in their own side. That is, these people or the soldiers inside the castle, they had a mentality that the physical structures around their castle is going to safeguard them. But that did not happen. So that is one of the flaws that lies in their own part. Instead, he regrets for not finding any weapon to fight with the enemy called gold, or this corruption or this bribery that was given to the wicked soldier. So he is very much regretful for this act of the wicked god or the soldier, but he never regrets that all these people were so confident about the physical structures or the fort or the thick walls and the strong walls around their castle that could protect them. So hereby we come to the conclusion that human greed can lead to the fall of a citadel or a very big or great fortress. So by this we have come to the end of the poem, and then the next slide will go to the literary devices. With the first stanza, the soldiers were shown to be so confident and were at ease. The second stanza elaborates on what the soldiers were thinking to themselves. So we'll go with the poetic lines. For what we thought we had to fear, with our arms and provender load on load, or towering battlements tier on tier, or friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. So one of these soldier thinks to himself, why should we fear? Because we have so many weapons and food in our own castle, so we needn't worry about anything. So they also have plenty of tall towers and openings to shoot their enemies if at all they come near their castle. So that is shown in the third line, or towering battlements. So they have so tall towers in their castle so that they could see any approaching enemy and kill them or shoot them. The next two lines, of friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. So this shows that their allies or the supporting countries are very near them. So they are about, and by this we come to the personification. Personification is attributing human characteristics to any inanimate object. The example is a little wicked gate. So the gate here is inanimate, it doesn't have any life, but wickedness, a character, a human characteristics is attributed to the gate, and that is why we call this as personification. And the next is rhetoric question. How can this shameful tale be told? So the narrator here gives a question to an assumed listener. He does not know if the listener is going to give him any answer or not, and he does not expect that. But he asks a question and he himself poses the answer. That is a rhetoric question. And the other two things is alliteration. So you have so many alliteration given in this poem. So alliteration is a series of words that begin with the same consonant sound. So you can find all this alliteration from your poem. And the next is rhyme. So I already told you the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme of this poem is A, B, A, A, B. So you can find this rhyme scheme in all the 6 stanzas, and from this you can bring out the rhyming words. So rhyming, what are rhyming words? Correspondence of sound between the words that are at the ends of a line in any poetic line. So hope you have understood all these, and the final thing to be told is this poem is an allegorical poem. So the allegorical meaning of this poem is that it is very difficult to protect oneself against greediness, particularly the love for money that is instilled in a person's psyche. That even in the war there are no rules, everyone can cheat to win, and betrayals may be a commonplace. So betrayals and cheating others is a commonplace in this world, and in war it is not something beyond a human psyche. So it is so common in war. So here are the poet's points that betrayal is a secret and subtle, and that an army is only strong if its men can't be bribed. An army which is strong is something in which the soldiers cannot be bribed. That is what is instilled in this whole poem. So hope you have understood this poem. If you have any clarifications to make, you can post your doubts in the comment section. I am sure to give you the answers and clear all your doubts. Thank you.